Hey, it's your tutor Courtney Waterman, lover of anime, manga, and math. And this is another session of Tutor Me Senpai. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Courtney, and this is another session of Tutor Me Senpai. Today we're going to be jumping into an 8th grade topic, finding the domain and range of ordered pairs. Now, finding the domain and range of ordered pairs is a relatively simple task, but because of how simple it is, it tends to also be a little bit tricky. So after today, I'm hoping I can give you the tips and tools to not get confused over which one is the domain and which one is the range. If you have any questions about what you see here, remember you can always put it in the comment box below. If you have questions about your own homework you would like to see on this channel, remember you can visit me on Facebook at Tutor Me Senpai. If you find this video helpful, remember to leave a like. It really helps the channel. Also, why don't you hit the notification bell and the subscribe button so you know exactly when I drop my next videos. Now, before we jump into our question of the day, let's jump into a few definitions that will make it a little bit easier later on. So today we're going to be looking at finding domain and range of ordered pairs. So here's a quick example of what an ordered pair will look like. Now, they're called ordered pairs for a reason. Let's break it down into its two parts, the ordered and the pairs. Pairs because there are two numbers, hence the pairs, and ordered because the order matters. Now, I couldn't just switch these and expect to get the same thing. This is not the same as this, and this is not the same as this. So the order matters. And the reason why the order matters is because of what these positions represent. This first position represents the X whenever you're graphing. And this second position represents the Y whenever you're graphing. So this X right here and this Y right here, if you were to swap them, you'll see you're not necessarily guaranteed to get the same result. That is not always going to be this. So ordered pairs, pair because there's two of them, and ordered because the order matters, is what we're going to be tackling today. In another video, maybe in the future, we'll look at graphs and then also we'll look at functions. But today we're just going to focus on ordered pairs. Now that we're focused on ordered pairs, let's talk about what a domain and range is. So a domain is just going to be all possible X values. And the range is going to be all possible Y values. So the reason why this is so confusing at times is because you see they're relatively asking for the same thing, all possible somethings, right? In both cases, you're looking at all possible something. So another reason why order matters for these ordered pairs is because the domain is only focusing on the X values, while the range is only focusing on the Y values. So when we look at this example and we look at the domain and the range, we can find our domain and range simply by focusing on the X values first and then the Y values second. The X values first and then the Y value second, because the X value is first in this parentheses and the Y value is second. So let's just kind of keep that same ordering, and it'll help you try to remember that domain comes first and range comes second. So if we were to put the domain for these ordered pairs right here, we would end up getting 0, 1, 2, because 0 is the X here, 1 is the X here, and 2 is the X here. The range will be all possible Y's, so we will get 3, 4, 5. Now I put them in order just to make things easier to read, but the range is just going to be the set of all of these numbers. And because 3, 4, and 5 are all the possible Y values that we have in this set, we end up putting them here. 0, 1, and 2 are all the possible X values we have in this set, so we end up putting it here. One way you can remember that domain comes first and range comes second is if you pay attention to the XY form of an ordered pair. In the XY form, you see X comes first and Y comes second. And in the alphabet, X comes before Y as well. So if we look at it the same way, you can see that domain and range have a similar pattern. The D in domain comes before the R in range, so you end up finding the domain first and then the range. Find domain first, all the x values, and then you find the range, all the y values. Now understand that some people are a little bit more visual, so I have another way that can potentially help you determine what's the domain and what's the range. So we're going to once again focus on these first letters. And let's think about shapes that have these first letters in their name. Well, shapes that start with these first letters. So when I see D, I think of a diamond. When I see R, I think of a rectangle. So the first thing I would do here is I would group all my diamonds together and all my rectangles together. So first, let's identify what the diamonds are. Diamonds are your first ones, right? So I put a diamond around this, a diamond around this, a diamond around this, and I put a rectangle around this, a rectangle around this, a rectangle around this. So I have my diamond and I have my rectangles. Now you see I've broken them out so you can't really get confused and end up writing a 1 and a 4 here because they have two different shapes, right? So we just focus only on all the diamonds. All the diamonds. We see I have 0, 1, and 2 here. So all the diamonds, D, go in domain. 0, 1, 2. And all the rectangles go in the range. Rectangle, R, range. So 3, 4, 5. So if you kind of put those two together, D comes before R, so you know that domain comes before range, and you're using their shapes to separate these, it becomes very simple to find your domain and find your range and not get them confused with each other. So now that we've talked about what an ordered pair is, and we've talked about domain and ranges and some easy tricks to kind of help us find them, let's tackle our question for today. So now we have this set of ordered pairs, 17, -9, 10, -5, 8, 3, 8, 4, and 6, -14. And we want to find the domain and the range of all of these. So we're going to use what we just talked about, understanding that domain, D, comes before range, R, and we're going to look at the X's first and then the Y's. We're also going to use the shapes to kind of help us group them together so we don't get confused when we're writing them down here. So if D comes first and D is the X part of this, then we're going to put our diamonds around the first part. So diamond, and it don't have to be pretty, as long as you understand it's a diamond. Right? So we have our diamonds. And now we have our ranges next for our rectangles. So now we put our rectangle. Now, try to make it a little bit easier for you to read. I have very limited board space here. So I'm going to be referring to the picture up here to my left, but try to make it a little bit easier for you to read when you're writing this on your own homework or anywhere else you might be writing this. But you see here we have our diamond, our rectangle, diamond, our rectangle, diamond, our rectangle, diamond, our rectangle, and diamond, our rectangle. So now we're just going to simply write all of the diamonds here and all of the rectangles here. So our first diamond is going to be 17. And we can rewrite this in increasing order later, but let's just kind of get everything down here first. Our next diamond is 10. Our next diamond is 8, followed by another 8, followed by a 6. And our range is a -9, followed by a -5, followed by a 3, followed by a 4, followed by a -14. All right, so you might be thinking, okay, I'm done. I can stop here. But I don't want you to think that just yet. If you notice, our domain has a repeated number. Now, remember the domain is all possible values of X, right? Well, if we have two that are the same value, we're kind of doing a little bit of overkill here, right? So we only need to count this once, because if you have an 8, no matter how many other 8s, it is already a possible value we're accounting for. Same thing for ranges. If there's a double, triple, or more here, then we would just simplify it down to just one of each number. We just want the unique set or unique list of numbers that are all X's and all Y's. We can actually rewrite this with just one of these 8s. So we get rid of one of 8 and we're left with this: 17, 10, 8, 6. No need to write it twice. Having 8 here once still makes it true that it's a possible value of X. Now we can rewrite this just to make it a little bit more readable in increasing order. And now you have your domain and range. Yes, our domain looks a little bit smaller, but that's only because we had a double 8 here and we only need to count for it once. We want just unique numbers that make up all possible values of X for a domain, and unique numbers that make up all possible values of Y for your range. So that concludes another session of Tutor Me Senpai. Today we went over an 8th grade topic, finding domain and ranges of ordered pairs. Now that's not to be confused with finding domain and ranges of, let's say, a graph or even a function. That could be handled in a later session, but today we wanted to focus just on ordered pairs. I hope today's tips and tools about how to not get confused about which one's domain and which one's range actually helps you today, because I really think that this is something that's simple but can be very confusing because of how simple it is. If you have any questions about what you saw today, feel free to put them in the comment box below. I'd love to help you if I can. If you have questions about your own homework that you'd like to see on this channel, feel free to visit me on Facebook at Tutor Me Senpai. If you found this video helpful, remember to leave a like. It really helps the channel. Also, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you know exactly when I drop my next videos. If you did find this difficult today, no worries. I'm sure you can get it if you practice this a little bit more. So why don't you go back, rewatch it, pause where you need to, take notes, and then make sure you understand each step before we move on. Well, that's all the time I have for today. I'm really hoping this helped with your homework, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. I'm Courtney, and this has been another session of Tutor Me Senpai.